Securely attached people just simply know that even while they're aware of their limitations and their growth edges and what they're working on, they don't doubt their sense of worth, that they deserve a decent life, that everybody does. And so they also don't take it too personally, even if the other person that they're with has completely different views of what would make a good life. They assume it might or might not work between us, but you deserve to have the life that makes you happy, and so do I.
Welcome to Heal Your Relationships. This podcast is all about healing your marriage and your other close relationships without waiting for the people around you to change. I'm your host, Dr. Kavita Sun. Let's dive in.
When I was going through life, still unaware that I had a disorganized attachment, I was cycling through relationships like it was my day job. By the time I was in my 30s, I had gone through a divorce and really painful breakups of 3 long-term important relationships. And I remember at that point, slowing down enough to think, maybe I am the common denominator. Maybe I need to look inward. And that's when the whole journey started to moving from disorganized to secure attachment. That process is called earned security. And in the last 5 years, I've taught this process to about 700 people. And that's what this channel is about, teaching you how to go from insecure attachment to secure, loving relationships where you can resolve conflicts amicably and have peace and connection and trust. I'm Dr. Kavita Sun. I'm a double board certified Harvard-trained psychiatrist who was relationally constipated for many, many years. And I've been blessed to learn tools that have completely changed my life. And my mission is to share that with you. So today I'm going to be sharing the 10 signs of a secure attachment. This, for me, is my North Star. It helps me know where to course correct when I'm feeling off, when something isn't working, when I'm feeling irritable or distant or arguing in my relationships. These 10 things, which is my North Star, I just need to pull up this list and I know exactly where to course correct. And so many of our clients have loved having this list, and so I thought you might love it too. Hopefully it's helpful to you. Let's dive right in. Number 1, you enjoy the little things. Now, this might sound like a cliche, right? You've heard these cliches before, stop and smell the flowers and be grateful for your health and your family. Yes, but with a caveat. Let me explain. What I mean by small things is even tinier day-to-day things. Like, for example, the feel of the sheets in your bed, how it feels against your skin as you wake up and breathing in that smell. How the coffee smells just before you take your first sip. The comfort and nourishment and warmth you get permeating throughout your body when the sun is on your skin. The enthusiasm and the innocence and exuberance of your niece or nephew when they see you and they come running up to give you a hug. The friendliness in the barista's voice as he's asking how to pronounce your name to write it on your coffee cup. So notice that I am talking about little things, but I'm talking about what they mean to me. What did they mean to me in that moment? That's what secure people do. They don't just randomly say, oh yeah, the cup of coffee was nice. Oh yeah, it was a sunny day. That was nice. They think about, why was that important to me? Why did that feel good to me? And they really stay and expand on why that was important to them for just 10 seconds each time. The other thing about secure attachment is that even when they're having a hard day, right? Like, let's say things aren't going well at work, or a presentation that you had bombed, or your children are having a temper tantrum, or, arguing with each other, or you're feeling sick, or there's a traffic jam when you're trying to get to the airport. Things that all of us face, even in the midst of genuinely annoying things like that, securely attached people also notice these other cues that I'm talking about: the sunshine, the coffee mug, the exuberance in someone's laughter, right? They also notice those safety cues. Those of us that are insecurely attached, it doesn't even register with us. We tend to only focus on the things that are not going well. We tend to make it mean that there's something wrong with us or there's something wrong with the world. And then we ruminate on that and expand that. So it's not just about the little things. It's about what does it mean to you? And then sitting with that and expanding it for a few seconds and noticing those things even in the midst of genuinely annoying day-to-day stuff, right? So that's the first one. Number two, you have a purpose or mission. Now, Viktor Frankl, a famous psychiatrist, said, "He who has a why for which to live can bear with almost any how." What he meant was he was talking about very extreme circumstances. He was someone who experienced the Holocaust and was at Auschwitz. And what he meant was, if there is something really deep and purposeful to you that you're living for, you can tolerate even extreme circumstances in order to keep going to get that thing. Many of us are not living in such extreme circumstances. But even then, even in modern life, if we don't have something bigger than ourselves to move toward, that gives us purpose and meaning, that raises us above the day-to-day monotony and the little joys and little annoyances of life, then life becomes just like a droning, repetitive task, right? And when that happens, we become overly invested in little things going our way because we don't have anything bigger or more deeper to live for. And that's when we can get burnt out. We can get easily irritated and annoyed if somebody cuts us in traffic or if our spouse doesn't have the right response to a question we asked, right? So one of the most important things that you can do for your own mental health is to figure out, what is the meaning and purpose of my life? Why am I on planet Earth? What is my unique contribution to make during this lifetime? It might be as small as raising a securely attached child, or planting a garden, or creating a nonprofit, or something else. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it has you jumping out of bed, feeling alive, feeling focused, knowing that even when you burn the midnight oil, you are excited, in flow, and you're grateful to be serving the cause. You got to have something like that. It does not have to be big, but it has to be meaningful for you. For me, my mission and my purpose is to pass on a legacy to my daughter that is better than the one that I inherited. That to me is the line in the sand. That's the reason I do everything I do. The newsletters that I send, the YouTube videos that I make, the work that we do with our clients, everything is an offshoot, is an expression of this deep mission and purpose of my life. Because when I'm engaged in creating those tools and helping other people in this area, then obviously I am going to be maintaining my own growth and healing, and it will also trickle down to my daughter, right? I cannot give from a place where I'm not doing the work. It won't even resonate with anybody. So everything that I do in my life is an offshoot, is an expression of my number one mission. And this mission, it will be my mission if I lose everything. If I end up sleeping in a homeless shelter tomorrow, it's still my mission. I will still get up and do it. I will be grateful to be able to serve this mission. You got to find yours. Number 3, you take care of your energy. This is something that it wasn't even in my vocabulary for a long time. I understood moods and thoughts and sort of the neurochemistry, right? Being a psychiatrist, learning neuroscience, I knew all of that. But I, for a long time, didn't understand that our bodies created a lot of our moods. Our body energy is something that you cannot override. Your nervous system basically is not something you can override. And there are things that you can do on a daily basis, though, that greatly influence your nervous system. I call them the big 5: sleep, sunshine, movement, friendship and hobbies, and journaling, self-awareness. These five things are the big five that to me help me be aware of and manage my own energy. Also, when we're upset, some of us get agitated in our body energy and some of us get shut down. And we need ways to be able to recalibrate that and bring it back to the middle, calm, flexible layer. It's a huge part of how you approach and manage and navigate difficult situations. So, number 4 is that you have a rich and varied social circle. When I say rich and varied, rich obviously doesn't mean wealthy. It means that you have circles of people that are varying levels of vulnerability and intimacy to you, right? So you have your immediate circle, might just be just one person, it might be a couple of people that know you pretty well. They might know the things that you're worried about, your childhood wounds and the things that you're working on, your dreams. Then you have a next circle. They know one or two aspects of you really well. For example, I have friends who are also of Indian origin, and so we connect around Indian music and food and culture and dance and books and language, right? They don't know a lot of vulnerable things about me, but we connect around really crucial, meaningful parts of my personality and theirs. Then we have another circle that are more like acquaintances. You do care about them, but you don't know too much about them, but you're there. It might be a neighbor, it might be a colleague, it might be the friend of your son or daughter, right? It might be a niece or nephew, people that you would help and they would help you if you needed it. And you might get together and watch a movie, and you might joke around, and you might get each other a cup of coffee. These things matter. These relationships are absolutely as important as having one or two deep connections. I did not understand this for a long time. And because of my trauma and my own disorganized attachment, I had a hard time trusting people enough to have light, easy connections. It took me a long while, and it's still a work in progress for me. So that's number 4. Number 5, you don't take on other people's moods. I want to add a caveat here. Of course, human beings are actually social pack animals. We're not immune to other people's moods. This doesn't mean that you should ignore other people's feelings or that you should be an independent lone wolf. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we can see other people's moods. We can maybe even feel some empathy. We might try to support them, but we don't take other people's moods personally. That's the difference. Securely attached people do not take other people's moods personally. They will do their best to try to support the other person, but they're not hell-bent on cheering them up. And because they're not hell-bent on cheering them up, they also don't get upset if the other person doesn't want to be cheered up, right? So there's a subtle difference between having compassion, connection, and empathy versus taking on someone else's moods and making them a personal sort of judgment about you. This I used to struggle with a lot. If someone was happy when I was very, very sad, I took that as an insult. When someone was very sad when I was super happy, that felt annoying and selfish. I've come a long way, and there are processes and skills that you can learn as well if you struggle with that. All right, the next one is you like your own company. This one is just simple. You simply like being with yourself. Doesn't mean that you're a loner and you want to be by yourself all the time. Most of us, if we never see another human being for a very long time, we will get lonely. But securely attached people can spend a few hours or even a couple of days just enjoying their own company, maybe reading books or taking walks or hiking or doing a project or doing art, crafts, something by themselves, doing their thing with themselves. And they kind of enjoy that time. Maybe some people use it for thinking and deep work. Some people use it just to walk around and listen to music and enjoy that time. It doesn't matter what you do with that time. It's the ease with which you can be still and hear your own thoughts and not be overwhelmed by them. Number 7, you express your love in small ways often. Small ways. is the operative word. I'm not talking about big grand gestures. The way we feel around someone else is based on just minute by minute how it feels in our body to be around them. The same thing for other people, how they feel around you is not based on the type of gifts you get or how you dress. It's just the sense of being around you and how safe and easeful that feels. And part of that is that securely attached people do little things simply because it occurs to them. For example, you might be walking by a store that sells specialized craft popcorn, and you suddenly remember that one of your friends who lives in another state is going through a breakup and she loves this sort of unusual flavors of popcorn. So you get a couple of sachets and you drop it in the mail with a little note to her, right? You might pick up some flowers at the farmer's market and swing by your neighbor's house and give it to them because. You might write a little note and put it in your lunchbox for your spouse or your children. You might send a book in the mail to somebody because you think it might help them. You might ruffle someone's hair as you pass by. You might pick up their favorite snack at the grocery store. These little drops of love, securely attached people tend to do them often and take joy in giving in that way without any expectation other than just to love on somebody. The other part of this is that when we confuse the small giving with the idea that there should be some sort of reciprocation, it's not that securely attached people don't have any expectations. Of course, we all have some expectations, but they don't tend to get too hooked and ruminative and assuming ill intent of the other person if they don't get an invitation back or a gift back or a thank you note. They tend to shrug and say, they must have forgotten. They must have been busy. Something must be going on. They give people the benefit of the doubt, and they give simply because it makes them feel good. Because of the sheer number of times that they do that, they do get some back as well. And so for them, it affirms their worldview that for the most part, the world is a nice place, right? I used to struggle with this a lot. I still do. It's something that I need to do intentionally. But because we put out much less as insecurely attached people, we put out these small tokens of love because it feels like a little vulnerable, a little risky. Since we put out a few, we might not get any back, or maybe only one every fifth time. And so that itself reaffirms our worldview that people don't care, or people are selfish, or people take advantage of us. So you notice that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. All right. The next one is that you know you're worthy. Securely attached people just simply know that even while they're aware of their limitations and their growth edges and what they're working on, they don't doubt their sense of worth, that they deserve a decent life, that everybody does. And so they also don't take it too personally, even if the other person that they're with has completely different views of what would make a good life. They assume it might or might not work between us, but you deserve to have the life that makes you happy, and so do I. And they're willing to negotiate without escalating. That sense of everybody can have their exact definitions of what makes life meaningful for them, and they are worthy, and I am worthy simply because we exist. That's an inherent belief of securely attached people. Number 9, you own your part. There are a couple of words here that are important. You only own your part. You don't take on the entire disagreement and apologize for being the sole reason for the entire misunderstanding, nor do you only blame the other person and say, well, if you hadn't said that, and if you hadn't done it this way, and if you hadn't done the same thing 3 times before, I wouldn't have. You made me, is the underlying assumption. Securely attached people can see, and they're willing to see, which part of this misunderstanding or disagreement is mine to own. And when they see that, they simply apologize. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said or done that. I will not do that again. If in the future this happens, this is what I'm going to try. They just simply apologize with no ifs, ands, or buts. But they also don't take on everybody's parts as their ownership. And finally, number 10, you honor your boundaries. I was raised with the idea that boundaries were, it wasn't an overt thing that anyone told me, but there was a covert message the boundaries are selfish. That if you're really a, family person, you're pulling your weight and you care about the family, then there's no such thing as boundaries. On the other hand, I saw that when there was boundaries, there was very harsh boundaries and cutting people off. It took me about a decade to get to an understanding of how to have firm but compassionate boundaries. Securely attached people tend to have only very few things that are non-negotiable boundaries, but they know what those are and they will honor them for themselves. They don't expect the other person to agree or to do the work of honoring the boundary. They will do the work of honoring their own boundaries for those non-negotiable couple of things. Kind of like if your child ran into traffic, you wouldn't be negotiating, you would simply act. I spent many, many years telling the other person what my boundary was over and over and over again, expecting them to agree or follow through. And obviously they didn't. And then I would be more resentful and I'll try to explain it again. It took me years to fully get that my boundaries are mine to act on and to honor. So those are the 10 signs of secure attachment. And for me, this is my North Star. It helps me stay in a space that is healthy and that allows me to actually serve my mission, which is to pass on a better legacy than the one that I inherited. I hope it was helpful for you too. In subsequent videos, we will unpack each of these as well. But I hope you can take this as a snapshot and add anything else that comes to you as well. But have a snapshot of what you're aiming for, because when you're overwhelmed or triggered, you lose sight of these things and you won't even know. It'll feel like a fog over your mind and you can't think clearly. So it's helpful to have this written down. In any case, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast and you'd like access to our marriage repair toolkit, you can go to www.healyourrelationships, all one word, healyourrelationships.com, and look for free training. I'll see you there.